Welcome back to another video. In this video I want to cover another aerial that I showed you in a previous video, which was the second part of that moving with the saber. And this involves actually doing an aerial from reverse grip. Okay, there's two different ways you can do it really, and what it is, if you saw it briefly, is you're taking a downward wield. You're transitioning it into reverse grip, okay? And then from there you're doing an aerial with it. You can either do a two-handed aerial like I did there, okay? Or you can do it into a one-handed, okay? From the opposite direction, it would look like that. The way to get into this move is with that finger roll. I cannot remember which video I detailed this move, but if you know how to do that, great. If you don't, I will actually put a link in the description of the video that is based on, so you can go back and learn this move. This move does take some practice to be able to do it with any reliable speed and with consistency without dropping it. So in this video I'm going to assume that you know how to do that move. If you don't, obviously go back and watch the video on how to learn this move. Then you can come back to this one and look at the application for it. So I'm going to start, as I always do, with the saber going downwards in my right hand, or to my right side rather. Now I'll do the two-handed version of this first, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like without moving. So if we start with, let's just take the downward figure eight, okay? Downward figure eight to my right side. Using that little finger roll, I can go into a downward wield in reverse grip, okay? Make sure my blade doesn't fling out here. So, standard grip, downward figure eight. We can do that finger roll to get into the downward wield in reverse grip, okay? Now the first version of this is, as I come in front with the saber, right there, I'm going into an aerial at that point, okay? It would be the same as that shoulder roll aerial, where as the saber comes in front, you're going into an aerial. Same is true for this move. When you come in front with that move, you're going into an aerial, okay? Again, this is something I would practice with the blade by itself first, leave off the hilt. That way if you drop it, which you probably will, it's not going to damage anything, it's not going to hurt your hilt at all. Okay, so that's a good way to practice this. So again, we're starting in a downward wield, going into that finger roll. So we're still in a downward wield, it's just that we've changed our grip. And as I come in front with the saber, I'm going into that aerial at that point, okay? And then catching in the opposite hand. And that's going to put me in an upward wield on this side. Okay, so that would be the first version of this aerial. You're going downward wield, finger roll, downward wield, aerial in front, into an upward wield, and then back, okay? Now the second version of this is actually taking a step with it. And what that's going to allow you to do is it'll allow you to do the aerial and then catch it in the same hand, going in the opposite orientation, okay? I'll do that from this angle so you can kind of see it. Again, you're still starting in the downward wield. You're transitioning it the same way you would for the first version, except in this version, you're transitioning it behind your body, okay? So the first version I transitioned here, this version I'm transitioning here, okay? And what that looks like is that. So this is good for changing the orientation of the saber to your body. What that means is, here I'm in a downward wield on my right side. I can use this move to go into an upward wield on my right side. And if you remember from my one of my previous videos, anytime you take a step, it's going to change the orientation of the saber the way it's spinning, okay? So downward on my right side, upward on my right side because I took a step, okay? So that's using that aerial to transition into the same hand, okay? So the first one was opposite hand, and then this one is same hand, okay? So that's two applications of that move. There is a third one which is kind of nifty, and it combines that move with changing the saber's direction itself, okay? And what that one looks like is that, okay? What you're doing there is you're taking that move, transitioning it behind your body into an aerial, but instead of letting it come all the way around and catching in the same hand, you're actually doing a half rotation, catching it in your opposite hand, and then changing the direction of the saber itself, okay? Which is going to put you in the same orientation that you started with, even though you only took one step. So I'll try to explain that a little bit better. I want you to think right side up, left side down. Or I'm sorry, right side down, left side up, okay? Because the saber's spinning downward to my right side and upward to my left side. If I do that little, that one there, that swaps to right side up and left side down. But if I do that two-handed version, okay, now I've gone back to the original, left side up, right side down, okay? Hopefully that made sense. I know it gets kind of confusing, but that actually allows you to change the direction the saber's spinning itself, and it also allows you to change your orientation of the saber, which essentially they cancel each other out, okay? So just a recap on those. Obviously, I am assuming you know how to get into that reverse grip. Okay, so downward, reverse to finger roll to reverse grip. There's the first version, where you're taking that downward wield and reverse grip, coming in front of your body and flicking it over, and then catching in the opposite hand. And then you're sticking with that momentum to carry it into an upward wield on the opposite side. And then back, okay? Second version was taking it behind the back as you step into an aerial into the same hand, okay? Okay, and that changes the orientation of the saber. Then there's the third version, which combines the first two. Okay, so downward, downward. And then as you step around, you're flicking it the same way you would for the second version, but you're catching the opposite hand now, and then flicking it the other direction. Okay, so that third version uses the same principle as, you know, that, where you're taking that shoulder roll and reversing the direction. It's the same principle, it's just that this time you're doing it to the opposite hand, okay? And that puts you in the same orientation you started with, okay? So that's something I wanted to show you. That's a good way to, again, move with the saber. It's a good way to transition between moves. It's a good way to kind of show off, I guess. So that's one of the other aerials that's really useful, really comes in handy. Again, you do have to pretty much have mastered that finger roll to reverse grip, because you really need to get that going smoothly to be able to do these moves at speed, okay? So that's that one. I honestly don't have any other moves at the moment to go over, but if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. I never really want to stop making flourishing videos because I love doing it. So hope you enjoyed this one, hope you learned from it, hope you can apply it to some other moves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.